Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 1st edition of the Canyon City Regular Council meeting. Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy. Absent. Councilmember Maloney.
Here.
Councilmember Schmisher.
Here.
Councilmember Stein.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy.
Here.
Councilmember Worthington.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Troutman.
Here. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we start out with citizens' request to speak to council, and we have two people. Is there Albert Romero? Would you please come to the microphone? Let's have your name and what you'd like to tell you. We have 3 minutes, and you're on the timer.
Yeah, my name's Albert Romero. I live down here in Canyon. The reason why I'm down here tonight is because the library's been giving me problems lately, again. I was banned from that place for 6 months, and I've been having problems with them. And today I had 2 movies on hold, and they're not supposed to be back until I had 2 movies on hold, and they're not supposed to be back on the shelf till the 5th. So that's 4 days from today. And so I had to take 2 movies back to get the other 2, and so I'm kind of thinking, okay, so my problem is the fact that if the library keeps doing what it's doing, then I'm to the point of not going through them, and I mean, I've changed my clothes, I've showered, I've done everything possible, and they're still complaining at me because of, you know, there's one lady down there at the library that is always downstairs. She always has a can of air freshener downstairs when I'm there, and she uses it, literally uses it when I'm there. And I'm not going to stand for it. I know I took my shower. I know my clothes are cleaned. If you don't like it, then that's just, then I will still come in, but I will just get my stuff and I'll leave.
Okay. So do you want to wait till the 5th to see if those movies come back? Is that the big
Well,
problem here, or
I already got them. I went down today and picked them up.
the new movies?
The new ones, yes.
Okay.
But I had to take 2 of them back because you can only check out 15.
Sure. That's acceptable. So,
And that's the other thing, is I don't think it's right, I don't think it's right for us to only check out 15 when other libraries allow people to check out 20 of them.
yeah. Every library is a little bit different. That's what the town does here. So that's our rules. And so that's what we're going to do. But I'm glad you got your movies. And I'm glad you can continue to go in if you'd like.
I mean, I'll go in and everything, it's
Okay.
just the fact that it's just the fact they need to understand that if I'm showered and cleaned
Sure.
and everything, then they don't need to worry about it.
Okay? All right. Well, thank you so much. The next one is Kevin Camarlo. Camarlo?
You're close.
Well, I've never heard that name before. No, I'm just kidding you.
It's Kevin Camerlo.
Camaro, I know that.
Oh,
Thank
thanks.
you so much.
Thanks for giving me a couple minutes to speak here.
Sure.
I own the building to the east of the New Method Laundry, and I just want to impress upon the council, if I could, the dire shape of the New Method Laundry. It is in grave shape. I believe it's going to collapse at any time, and it's just in terrible shape. The roof hasn't been maintained in at least, let's see, it'd be 44 years. I've been working on that building since I was 16 years old, which would have been 1980 was the first time I painted our building. And the whole time I worked on our building, my dad owned it for about 20 years, I've owned it for about 24 years. And the whole time I've worked on our building, we have not seen any roofing work done on the New Method Laundry. So the leaks are so bad that they've rotted out a lot of the main bearing points on that. And what's happening, that roof is now sagging in both directions towards the middle, in both the second story part and the first story part. So it's not a matter of if it's going to come down, it's a matter of when it's going to come down. And I believe it'll have a catastrophic effect on my building. I own the 323 space and the 325 space. And I've kept those vacant for the last 3 years because I've been afraid that building will collapse. And it'll be a dominoes effect. I think when it collapses, it'll kick that masonry wall out. We have a common wall. It'll kick that wall with a lateral force, and then that'll cause our roof joists, our our floor joists to fail. So.
We have applied, and we're going to, I don't know what the time frame on that, but the money is available or going to be available to take that building out of there. It's a huge expense to the city, and I signed a letter today, Ryan, that for some extra funds because it went way over what we would thought to take it out of there, and there were no takers for it. You know,
No, absolutely not.
you know that you wouldn't buy it even though it's next door. So, but the city is doing the best due diligence we possibly. We have the money, we have it coming in, we've been promised, and isn't that true, Ryan?
Yeah, this is an agenda item later. And,
Oh, okay.
You know, we've applied for some emergency funding. We have to wait and see if the state's going to award it. But
Okay.
We can get into those details at
All right.
at the last agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and I'd be happy to jump in if you have any questions for me at that point. So
Okay, yeah.
I just again, I want to express the dire shape of that building. It is in bad shape. It was in such bad shape that during the last snowstorm, I think the city engineer came down to check it out with the building official several days in a row. So
Yeah.
it's a serious
Well-
situation that needs immediate attention in my opinion. But it looks like I'm out of time, so thank you.
That's fine. You know, Emily?
Oh, I just wanted to thank you for being here and hope you can stay. We do have it as an agenda item tonight.
Yes, I'll stay.
Okay, great. And it's, you know, we've certainly talked about it a lot, either in regular council meetings or even, I think, at our retreat. We had a discussion last Friday. So we're very aware and very concerned about the status and want to address it as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
John?
Yes, do you have a specific condition or something that you're especially concerned about, or is it just an overall concern for the general shape?
No, there's specific concerns. The main roof-bearing beam on the one-story part has completely sheared in two, sagging significantly. I've had to pump water out of the New Method Laundry for the last 3 years to try to save our common wall, because when that water gets inside the New Method, the way the floor slopes, it comes towards the common wall. And those old masonry walls can't take continual water damage, as you saw on 6th Street. I think that was probably attributable to some water damage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, yeah. So we are going to, it has been quite a bit of discussion, and sadly, it's one of those buildings that a point of sale to a private party, nobody would do it. And it
Understood.
requires, and it is a huge expense, but we're going to take care of it.
Thank you.
Okay? At this time, are there any council announcements or discussions? Emily?
Thanks. I just want to thank staff and volunteers at the Royal Gorge Museum and History Center. A local nonprofit produced a panel discussion there on Saturday regarding the Superfund site, and it was very well attended, 35 to 40 or 45 people. And just wanted to give a shout out to our museum director, Lisa Stutz, and to Brandon, who helped record it, Brandon Morris, and volunteers and others who helped set up for that. So just want to, again, recognize the wonderful staff we have with the city.
Okay, thank you, Emily. John?
Yes, we do have a meeting Wednesday here, and I believe we have though that's canceled, correct?
That is.
Including the urban renewal?
Both are canceled
Both
for the
meetings are
Downtown
canceled.
Colorado Inc. Conference.
Thank you. Just like to share some statistics from our 911 call center. The February phone call stats, they had over 1,400 incoming 911 calls. They also, a total of 4,500 administration line calls and 1,700 outgoing calls, which comes out to an average of 361 calls over the 28 days per employee. So
Wow.
they are busy, and they are listening, there to help us when we need them.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, I can't substantiate this, but I've heard it might be coming to us as a memo from the highway department. They're wanting to redo the center median down there instead of having a park-like down there. What they're asking for now is to put up a wall. And Leo, you probably haven't heard of this, Leo, but it's coming possibly, but right. And so what they want to do is they want to sell advertising on the site. So it'll kind of be like the Broncos and stuff like that. And what it will do is tell the eastbound lane what they missed on the westbound lane and vice versa. And so a little bit of revenue for the state, things like that, and of course this is April Fool's, so I might as well tell you there right off, don't print that, Carrie, please don't. I can get
Give
in
him
so much
credit.
trouble, and blame it on Leo. So, okay, you can't have fun, what the heck. I just knew it, April 1st, I couldn't help myself on that, so.
Mr. Mayor, you'd wait until the press was in the audience.
I would just, yes, she shows up, and there she is.
But I
All
do
right.
want to say something's being planted there now. It's really going to
It
look
is,
nice.
yeah.
if
I
we
saw
can
them putting
manage the traffic.
the compost in there, and I hope they're all legal weeds. Again, April Fool, come on, come on. All right, let's get to the serious portion here. Any other, no more comments. I have a proclamation here for the, this is the month of sexual, a very serious topic, by the way, so let's get back on it. Sexual Abuse Awareness Month. And I think I'd like if we would each take, there's 8 portions to it. Would you mind, we can just start out and take turns reading the whereases and what fors? Would you mind reading a couple,
Just
Emily?
starting, Sure.
Sure.
Whoop. Sorry, I just lost my electronic place, but it's going to come back.
Would you like me to start?
Yes, that would be
Yeah,
great.
John, go
Okay.
ahead.
The Office of the Mayor proclamation, whereas April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month and calls attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and impacts every person in the city of Canyon City. And whereas every day women, men, and children across Colorado suffer the pain and trauma of sexual assault upon survivors and our communities, and
And whereas this crime occurs far too frequently, goes unreported far too often, and leaves long-lasting physical and emotional scars, and during National Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we recommit ourselves to lifting the veil of secrecy and shame surrounding sexual violence, expanding support for victims, and strengthening our response, and
Whereas sexual violence affects individuals of all ages, backgrounds, and circumstances, and whereas as a community, we share the responsibility for protecting each other from sexual assault, supporting victims when it does occur, and bringing perpetrators to justice, and
Whereas at every level, we must work to provide necessary resources to victims of every circumstance, including medical attention, medical health services, relocation and housing assistance, and advocacy during the criminal justice process. And whereas the City of Canyon City can come together to increase awareness about sexual violence, decrease its frequency, hold offenders accountable, support victims, and heal lives now, therefore be it resolved that the month of April 2024 is hereby designated as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in the city of Canyon City, and hereby urge the community to work together to educate themselves about sexual violence prevention, to support survivors, and speak out against harmful attitudes and actions, dated this day of April 2024, and I will sign that. So thank you. Is Sarah Fisher here? No, but I'm here for. Well, would you please come forward and give us your name? And first of all, thank you for doing that. It's always a pleasure, mixed emotions, of course, to sign a proclamation like this, giving you the month.
My
So-
name's Crystal Sumter. I'm with Family Crisis Services. I'm their pre and sexual assault response coordinator. And so we do appreciate you declaring April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And certainly I can answer any questions you have. But we serve as victims of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Okay. Any questions of council here on the screen? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's the proclamation. Okay, I would like to ask the administrator to review the agenda and the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Item 8A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on March 18th and the general government meeting on March 20th. 8B authorizes the mayor to appoint Kathy Herron and Fran Miller to the Library Museum Board for 3-year terms. 8C authorizes the city administrator to sign a funding agreement with the Humane Society of Fremont County. 8D authorizes the city administrator to sign an on-call engineering, materials testing, and construction management for street resurfacing agreement with Vivid Engineering in an amount not to exceed $110,000. 8E extends bid 2523 stormwater facilities maintenance. 8F awards bid 3724 magnesium chloride or dust suppressant to GMCO Corporation in an amount not to exceed $20,000. 8G is to award bid, and there's a correction here, this should be bid 4124, VMware to Insight Public Sector in an amount not to exceed $23,708.16. 8H is to receive and file cash disbursements.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any additions or corrections from any council person?
And we did send out a revised contract for the Humane Society, so that was sent out.
I saw that. Yeah, it's incorrected. Thank you. Emily?
If okay, I think it makes sense to have some discussion on item 8C, which is the funding agreement with the Humane Society. I could go ahead and make a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda if you'd like, as long as we pull that out and have some discussion about it.
You want to just have the discussion now? And
Whatever you prefer.
why don't we do that now?
Okay. I just thought it would help if City Administrator Stevens would go over what the changes are between the previous version that we saw of the funding agreement with the Humane Society and what's been changed, and maybe clarify just some of the funding issues under scope of funding in the agreement.
Yeah, the biggest changes were to add some clarity. The agreement is a 1-year agreement. The funding agreement is for the calendar year, so we added some clarity about how the previous months were going to get paid and then being paid on a monthly basis going forward. There was also some language in there about the profit and loss statements and when those are received by the city. We've already received those for the previous year and for this funding cycle, so that's more of a moot point, but we fixed it in the contract itself. And I'm sorry, what was the last?
Oh, I just wondered if you, specifically under the scope of funding under item 1B, well, I guess all of that, just to kind of clarify, the total agreement is $86,400. And maybe just clarify in paragraph 1 what the $28,800 is, and then in paragraph 2, is that going forward then, the monthly?
Correct. So the 28,000 is for the months that have not been paid yet to date,
Okay.
and then the 7,200 per month is the the amount to be paid on a monthly basis going forward.
Thanks.
I also had a question about that agenda item, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, Amy, you go ahead.
On 2A, the last sentence of the new contract reads, funding provided by the city shall be made no later than 20 days following approval of the statement by city council. Does that mean that on a monthly basis, we will need to review this and approve it in a city council meeting, or what's the intention of 2A?
No, it's a one-time, they provide those statements one time, and then once council has reviewed those, the payments go through on a monthly basis. They do have to provide quarterly reporting to the city administrator, and I will review that as we receive them.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Amy. All right, then, oh, Emily, go ahead.
It's just me, but just a little more clarity on that. Did the council already take the action that's referred to in here? Did we already approve and/or accept the financials that you referenced? Or do we need to act on that?
You know, you have received them. I don't know that you've actually taken an action on them. So I don't know if, maybe not required.
Okay, so we're good.
So by approving the agreement, I think that's the action that you're taking.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Okay, then I guess we'd ask for a vote. Motion. Motion. Keep that old mayor in motion, okay, go ahead. Would you, oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda for our meeting.
Okay, have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Maloney, is it what's called a roll, call the roll? Yes, okay, let's do that.
Councilmember Maloney,
Aye.
Schmisher,
Aye.
Stein,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Worthington,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Aye.
Boy, I worked my way through that one, didn't I? Now then, could we have the administrator's report?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You have the written report in your packets. I think the thing of highlight in the written report is the work that continues with the Recreation District and now working with the school district and meeting with the school district board regarding the facility, the community pool, and going through that feasibility study. There has been an additional question launched on the project page, asking for the community to weigh in on 4 potential sites for the pool. So that is live. That's been shared both through our sites, I believe the school district site and the rec center as well, about those 4 potential sites. Things that you're not going to find in the report that have happened since the report was written. We have our auditors on site this week, so the auditors are working with finance. These are new auditors, so they're going to be taking a deep dive into our books. They may be reaching out to council members, asking questions, so don't be surprised if you get a call from somebody from the audit team. Our broadband project with Visionary Broadband, they're set to break ground this month. That project to build out the ring will continue through the summer of 2025. I don't know yet whether or not they plan on building out the neighborhoods as they go, but we definitely know that the ring itself will be done by the summer of 2025. Our creative crosswalks have been printed. They're scheduled to be installed later this month. We're trying to time it so it happens right before Blossom. So downtown will be nice and fresh looking, and that will be the brightest that those the crosswalks will be. And then Rhodes Avenue is being buttoned up for the season. We're storing material. The contractor's working on getting the street reopened and getting through all that process. With that, I'm happy to take any other questions.
Okay, John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've got a couple of questions. Under our Public Works update, one of the items is school clocks time change and it shows as completed. What service are we providing to the schools?
So those are the yellow or the flashing speed zone
Thank you.
lights.
Thank you, I understand that. Also, under the Parks Department, it states, in addition to daily routine park maintenance, burials, and forestry operations. And I'd like to say again, I would sure like to understand the city's obligations concerning cemeteries, and either through documentation or whatever form, that would be really nice if we could receive some information there.
Yeah, we have some money budgeted for some planning for the ceremony, or for the cemetery later this year, so I believe that will actually be an entire work session at some point.
An entire work session,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we'll go over what the original requirements were and where we are and all
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
we can bring forward that information at that time.
Great, that would be perfect. And then, one question for our city clerk. At the end of the report, we have the city clerk report, and it shows name of establishment and action, and shows a bunch of renewals. Those are business license renewals,
Liquor license.
liquor license. You might add that, just so that it's clear that what's being renewed, because I did
Absolutely.
not know. Thank you.
Okay.
That's-
Thank you, John. There's a yellow hand up there. Who's wanting to ask questions? Amy? Andrea? Well, whose yellow hand is that up there?
Sorry, trying to unmute. Just one
Oh.
quick confirmation question. Ryan, are we still on track for the Highway 50 project to be completed by Blossom?
I think the majority of the project will be completed by Blossom. There's some items that are on back order, the flashing lights, and some of the street lights at the crossings. Those may be installed after Blossom, but the majority of the concrete work, the plantings, those types of things, the majority of that will be done and should be open by Blossom.
Okay, so we expect the roads to be open by Blossom, kind of 2 lanes going in both directions.
Yes.
Thank you.
So are the advertising signs back order? I'm sorry. I just want to let it go. So, so I get this text from Ryan, the administrator, and says, don't be alarmed if the auditor calls you. And I just got my taxes back from the CPA, and it's like, I'm having, explain, the auditor may call you. Oh my God, that's it. All right, enough. Well, I have a discussion on award bid 27-24, street resurfacing to Avalanche Excavating in the amount not to exceed $2,256,090.50. Could we have the staff report, administrator's report? Leo?
Yeah, and,
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine, Mr. Mayor. Similar to what we have done in a couple of previous meetings, normally this would be on the consent agenda. There's a few more details that we want to bring to light and have a little bit of feedback from City Council. I'll pass it over to Leo Evans, our Public Works Director, to go through the bid process and where we stand with this bid.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Leo Evans, Public Works Director. What you have today is a bid for a combination of 2A and general fund projects. This was discussed back in, I think, June or July of last year when we did our 2A annual update to include resurfacing of North 5th Street and Harrison Avenue as collector roads within the 2A program. We also had a number of other local streets that were in need of resurfacing and had some general fund money for that. So this project was sent out for bids. We did receive 4 bids. We are recommending the low bid, Avalanche Excavating, at $2.2 million with contingency. Just as a quick reminder, these are resurfacing projects. These are not reconstruction projects like many of our other 2A projects. This is a faster, much less intensive construction process. We'll be essentially removing the top 2 inches of pavement, putting a new top 2 inches of pavement on it, and kind of walking away from these for a little while. It's intended to extend the life of the road by 15-ish years in most cases. Could be a little longer or shorter, depending on how much traffic they get and the underlying conditions. But these are usually done at about 1/3 to 1/2 the price of reconstruction projects. So we're able to do quite a bit more streets lengthwise for less money and in a shorter time frame. A couple things of note, when we did initially discuss this project, we had proposed North Fifth and Harrison be funded with 2A, and the remaining 4 segments of roadway were to be general fund obligated roads. After opening the bids, I would like to at least ask the council to consider funding the roads on the perimeter of the Fremont County Admin Building with $2A, as that would better fit within the budgeted funds we have. We don't have sufficient general fund resurfacing dollars to do all 4 of those segments, but we do have sufficient $2A for what we budgeted to add in that extra segment. So that is included in the staff summary there. If we did choose to go that route, the total 2A allocation would be $1,813,214.10, and the general fund allocation would be $442,876.40. We are asking for a 20% contingency on this project. Excuse me. The bid tabulations did include some zero quantity items for a 4-inch milling and resurfacing. In the instance we find that there's not more than 2 inches of pavement on any of these streets. We did a couple of borings and did find a couple of those locations, so we suspect there'll be some areas that will need 4 inches of pavement, but not most of the project. Let me see what else I can add. The one other one that I would point out, and I did talk briefly with Council Catherine about this. We do have, even after the reallocation of the Fremont County Admin Building, there is a little bit more money of 2A left of what we budgeted. We budgeted about $2 million within the 2A program. We could consider, if the council wishes and has that desire, to potentially add the 1 block of Main Street that's left to be addressed into this contract for resurfacing. That is the say 7th to 9th Street. It's kind of halfway between 7th and 8th up towards 9th Street, that last little bit of Main Street there. That is on the second page of bid tabulations. That would add roughly $138,000 to add that segment into the contract. I know the legal counsel may have some opinion on that. I know there's a little potential discrepancy between our charter provisions and our purchasing policy as to how city council can do that. That work was not included in the original bid, so that is something we'd have to discuss. And I think the only other thing I was going to take the opportunity to just quickly talk about the rest of our 2A program for this year, and just use this time to give a quick update. The other projects we have are Main Street. I'm going to say 1st and Main Street from US 50 up to 4th Street. That's being done in combination with a CDOT grant to add bump outs at 3rd Street. We have roughly 60% design plans done on that. We're working through the CDOT environmental process that we have to go through. And we're hoping to have a set of plans that we can share with stakeholders and businesses up and down the street either later this month or early next month on that project. Another project in design is Pear Street from 19th to Field. That project is roughly 70% designed, and we hope to have that issued for bids sometime in June and start construction in July. Our last 2A project for 2024 was Justice Center Road from US 50 to Grandview. Recently, the county did open bids and is recommending award of the Grandview Bridge over 4 Mile Creek replacement. So we are going to recommend that Justice Center not be done this year, just due to the traffic conflicts that'll happen if the bridge is out and Justice Center is closed to one-way traffic at both times. So that project will have to be tabled until 2025 to work with the county work at Grandview. So that does leave about $1 million to $1.5 million shortfall in our 2A program for 2024 that we could entertain more resurfacing work or another project if there's direction from the council. I would say that if we wanted to do more resurfacing work, it would probably have to be local streets. There are no good candidates that are collector or arterial streets left for that type of work. We're kind of getting the last of them this year with 5th Street and Harrison Avenue. So that was a lot.
Thank you, Leo.
Got all-
When you talk that 20% contingency, can you explain that? What does that mean? If they go over for some necessary, like more asphalt, you said that's what that is supposed to cover.
Yeah, that covers the unforeseen situations that occur in the construction project. As I mentioned, the project is really intended to just replace the top 2 inches of
Sure.
asphalt, but if we grind that off and find that we get right to gravel, we would grind 4 inches down and then put 2 layers of asphalt back just to make it a city standard road. And those quantities weren't included in the bid and weren't estimated. We do ask for a price for that, but with no quantity in the bid, if that makes sense. So then we use the contingency to pay the difference to do 4 inches of resurfacing instead of 2 inches.
And that's in the bid.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Emily?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I said Emily.
Sorry.
Emily.
Sorry.
It's okay, we all have questions, and thanks for all that information. Leo, I want to be sure I understand correctly on what's left on both ends of Main Street. Am I correct in what you said, that we do plan to do the west end this year, that's just, it's in the process already to do from 4th West on Main? And then the other end of Main is the question about whether we can add that in, given our bidding process and so forth.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, but there's at least a potential that we could actually finish Main this year. That's kind of exciting. Or I should say 9th to the west end, so thanks. That was my question.
I think the one caveat there is if we resurface the 700 block, it's not going to have the bump out treatments or condensed sidewalks, or, you know, the expanded sidewalk, sorry, that the rest of Main Street has, and that would have to come at a later date.
We could do without the bump outs. Sorry. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Director Evans, as I understand the contract, it's really, there's 2 parts to it. There's the construction side of the contract, and then there's construction management side built into the contract also. Is that, I understand that correctly? And and what we're asking for on the construction management side, I believe, are daily reports, material test results, change orders, pay applications, certification statement for work and materials, any exceptions, red line plan set with final quantities and other as-built notations. That's part of the contract management part of this contract?
Yes, that was one of the consent agenda items for that contract. We don't have the equipment to do materials testing, so we always bid material testing out.
Sure.
We added construction management to this one. This project will also include updates of all the sidewalk ramps at the intersections to ADA standards, so that pays to have someone go out and lay all those out for us, because I anticipate our engineering staff will be working on Pear Street and Main Street and getting Rhodes Avenue ready for next year.
Okay, and do you know who the construction manager will be from from the paperwork side that we're talking about right now on, from Vivid?
I would have to look. I believe it was Jeff Klimick, I believe, was the lead from Vivid. I know they have some field inspectors as well, but.
Well, so, but help me understand, you know, when I think of construction management, there's, when you're doing a project, you have the management for the actual work in progress, okay? And then there's quality control and quality analysis. That's the testing part of it. And then there's contract management to make sure that that we're getting what we asked for in the contract, which involves evaluations of work that's done and similar activities. And I'm having a hard time, I'm not sure that I've seen this particular structure before, where the same contractor who's doing the work is evaluating the effectiveness of that work for us. Do I have that correct, that that's what this is going to cover?
No, not at all. Vivid Engineering will work solely for the city to represent the city's interests and oversight of that project to make sure the city standards are followed, the specifications are followed, the materials meet all the requirements. They'll document any change orders that are needed, any differing conditions. the contractor has to provide an independent quality control firm. They're not allowed to use Vivid to provide their material testing, so they will have a separate company that provides material testing on their behalf as well.
So who's doing the paving?
The paving, I believe, will be done by Martin Marietta as a subcontractor to Avalanche Excavating.
Okay, so that's the structure, that's the part I was missing. So in other words, we have independent contractors performing the work and independent contractors evaluating the work.
Yes.
Thank you. That clarifies it for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I see a yellow hand up there. Amy, or is that you?
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor Trutman. I have two questions, Director Evans. Just wanted to confirm that they will sequence the closing of the milling and resurfacing of these 6 streets, that they won't all be closed at the same time. I know that we've had some challenges in the past where folks, roads are closed and they work isn't necessarily being done. So wanted to make sure that these would be closed only for the amount of time that they're actually working on them.
Yes, that's correct. I don't have the exact dates in front of me. I believe we allowed 180 dates for the entire project, but each segment, once started, has a specific time frame assigned to it. I remember 5th Street is 28 days. So once they start work on North 5th Street, all of that work must be completed in 28 days.
Perfect, thank you. And then my second question was, are there any arterial or collector streets from the 2025 plan for 2A that we could move forward to 2024? I think it's really important that we prioritize those roads that are most heavily trafficked for 2A so that the most people in Canyon are able to see the benefit from their taxpayer dollars at work. So just wondering if there are any roads that we could move forward given that we need to move justice back. Thanks.
All of the work we had proposed under 2A in 2025 was reconstruction work, so we haven't begun the design in earnest on that work yet, so none of those projects could be escalated to get done this year.
Okay, thank you, Amy.
Thanks, that's what I thought, but just wanted to double check. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Amy. Any questions? Leo, any?
No, I think really the only decision point would be if the council would like to consider adding in additional contingency for Main Street, and I'd maybe ask Corey to weigh in on the charter provisions and how that plays out.
Well, the charter says no work, what is it, in excess of $6,500 can be done unless bids are received. And so the argument is always, if you're doing a change order, is that in compliance with the charter? And so if challenged, could we guarantee that we would win? The answer to that question is absolutely not, because that charter provision, unfortunately, is pretty restrictive.
Emily, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry.
No, actually, that was my question.
Yeah,
so
I
he
was going to
addressed
ask that. Is there, I would like to see that finished. I think our downtown, it's kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, but how would we would have to come back and ask someone to bid it again, just like we did this.
Yeah, and there's another way to do this that is to do what I would call an expedited bidding process. I would suggest that this bidder has an inherent advantage because they're mobilized. So there is a way to do this where you still put it out to bid, but a bidder that's mobilized and out there has an inherent advantage, and you'd probably get a very similar price, I would hope.
What's the pleasure of council on that? Would we like to do what our attorney has suggested? Because again, I'd like to see it done and not continue to delay that.
I'd just like to ask, what would the
Yeah.
timing on that be? When do you think, what part of the year would that be done?
For Main Street?
Yeah, for the
I
7th
would
and
guess
9th.
it would take us at least 4 to 6 weeks to put a bid packet together, and then it'd have to be advertised for 3 to 4 weeks. So, you know, you're probably looking at least 2 months before we could come back with even a notice to award. We could time it whenever after that point, I would say.
The other Main Street work is scheduled to be done after Labor Day.
Okay, okay.
John, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That, excuse me, Attorney Hoffman, would you read that charter provision again, please?
No purchase shall be made and no contract for work, services, and labor except professional and scientific services shall be entered into involving an expenditure of more than $6,500 unless bids be asked and received therefore under rules prescribed by the council.
The So does that work on the downside also? If we get something cheaper than what we contracted for, do we also have to approve that?
I'm not sure what you mean. It means that if there's something over $6,500 estimated, it has to go out to bid. That's all that means. So if we have something that's estimated to be $100,000 and it comes in at 80, that doesn't violate that in any way.
Does this amount fit within the contingency? Did I understand that correctly? That or is this an additional amount that would be approving?
This would be additional,
Additional.
above what's included in the motion, yes.
And I would just add, this is language we've suggested is outdated in our charter for many years.
Emily, go ahead.
It makes sense to me if it fits within staff's time frame and workload and so forth to do another bid, or, to put that together and send that out. Makes sense to me to do it that way. Because of the charter language, and I'm not sure, Corey, when you said expedited, is there something different we could do? It sounds like it's a block of work. I don't know how you do it faster.
No, it's not that the work could be done faster. I think there is ways in which you can expedite the notice, for example, on the bidding. You can give it to particular qualified bidders, including one we know that will be out there.
Got it.
So there are ways to expedite the process.
Got it.
But not the construction.
Okay. Amy, is that you?
Yes, thank you. My only concern goes back to what City Administrator Stevens mentioned before in terms of the other improvements for that part of Main Street. Bump outs notwithstanding, I do know that some of the business owners in that block would like to see electricity in their block and would like to see some of the other improvements that the other blocks have seen. If we went ahead and did an expedited bid for just milling and resurfacing, how does that change how we would approach electricity and some of the other improvements for those blocks? Thanks.
Yeah, I think there would potentially be some sunk costs in that. We would be resurfacing some areas that may end up being removed if we're able to find the funding and come back with a project that expands the sidewalks or changes electricity. You're talking maybe just the outer few feet of asphalt would be resurfaced once and then removed in the future.
And what's our current planned timeline for doing the other improvements? I mean, how much longer would it be for us to wait and not kind of have that sunk cost that we're losing by if we were to decide to move forward with the milling and resurfacing now? Thanks.
It could be up to a year or two, maybe more. What we would like to do the same thing that we're doing over on the 300 block. We're using a CDOT grant to help cover those costs to make the amenity improvements to that block. We had included the 700 block as part of that grant application. However, the state had us choose one or the other side of Main Street. So once we complete the obligations of our current grants, we would start seeking grant funds again for the other side of Main Street.
Would we be able to do the electricity piece along with the milling and resurfacing?
I'm not sure I could answer that right here. I'd have to look more.
Okay. I would love for us, if we're going to be doing that work, to minimize the amount of costs that, that we would potentially be repaying next year, and also get some of the amenities that the business owners have expressed a desire for now, if we're going to go ahead and do that milling and resurfacing. Thanks.
Thank you. Amy? Have we arrived at any point to make decisions, council, or what would be yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I was going to say, if nothing else, if we could award the bid as presented, and then we could work on some other options going forward, if that's the desire of council.
That's reasonable. So we would do a two-step. We would do this bid, a motion on this bid here, but then bring it up center ice, so to speak, for the rest of Main Street. And we could talk about the electricity and all the other stuff. That seem reasonable?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yes, sir. So then I, at this point, would entertain a motion and a second. Emily?
I move that we award bid 27-24 to Avalanche Excavating in an amount not to exceed $2,256,090.50.
I'll second.
Second, Gerald? Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Maloney,
Aye.
Schmisher,
Aye.
Stein,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Worthington,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to B. It's a second reading. Thank you, Leo. It's a second reading and adoption by title only of Ordinance 1, Series 2024, entitled, an ordinance of the City of Canyon City approving an addendum to the master lease agreement with U.S. Bancorp Government Leasing and Financing Incorporated. Could we have a staff report?
Yes, sir. This is Ordinance 1. First reading was on March 18th. We've received no additional public comment. Staff would recommend approving on second reading.
Okay, any questions of council? John?
I have a motion that we approve Ordinance 1, Series 2024.
Okay, motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second that on second reading, correct? Part of the motion.
Second reading, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Maloney,
Aye.
Schmisher,
Aye.
Stein,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Worthington,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Aye.
Okay, let's go into C. It's award bid number 10-24 to the second low bidder, Impact Industrial Services, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $804,416.95, which includes a 15% contingency. Could we have a staff report?
I'm going to ask Leo to go over the process for the bid process.
Okay.
Once he's done with that, I'm going to give council an update on financing and funding of the project and where we're at right now.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. Leo?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. We did issue this project out for bids. Bids were due on February 29th. We received 4 bids for this project. In the time since then, we've went through all the bids, evaluated them all. All 4 were complete bids that met the design criteria. In light of the other building collapse on Main Street, we did push this a little faster than we had intended. We were seeking funding, which Ryan will talk about. But that did kind of bring it to the front of mind. So with that, we met with the 2 low bidders, as this project was set up not only as a low bid, but a qualifications-based requirement. The low bidder had very limited experience doing this exact type of work. They hadn't done anything quite like this in recent history. Their bid also included a lot of exclusions and exceptions of things they would not include with their work. Meeting with the second low bidder, their price was higher, but they have had a lot of experience in this field, done many buildings of the exact same situation over the past 25 years, and their bid included no exclusions for the contract. Given the high risk involved with this structure, as Kevin mentioned, a collapse, a wrong move, anything like that could really have a domino effect on the adjacent buildings, causing damage beyond this structure that we need to have removed. And that really led us to believe that the bidder with the experience was the better overall choice for the city in this instance. And I'll let Ryan talk about the funding aspect of this project as that's come up.
Yeah, before I move to that, I appreciate Mr. Carmelo being here tonight and speaking. I did invite Mr. Brad Rowland as well, who owns the adjacent property to the west. Unfortunately, he is out of town, but he shares a lot of the similar concerns as Mr. Carmelo. As it goes, as far as funding the project, what we're proposing is covering the costs through, we have $345,000 left in our EPA multipurpose grant. We have submitted a letter to the state. It has been submitted. I received confirmation this afternoon for state emergency funds. So what we're asking from the state is $402,208.47 from the state. We don't know when we will receive that, or if we will receive that. With this path, we would also be looking at $57,208.48 in city funds. All of this can be accounted for. We have a budget line item in our quality of life fund for unanticipated grants, and we've built in matching funds for that. So if we receive this grant from the state, we can account for that all through our quality of life budget line item. What we'd like to ask for council tonight is to award the bid contingent upon emergency funding from the state. If for some reason we do not receive the funding from the state, myself, Leo, Rick will get back together and try and come up with another funding option for the city to take this project. I believe from what I've heard from Randy at DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, is that it could be a week or two. She's going to be down at the DCI conference while we're there, so I'll be talking to her while we're down there as well, trying to get updates on where this application process is.
Thank you, Ryan. So as I then would we have to put some verbiage in here? If we approve the bid contingent, would that have to be added to this verbiage that I have here?
Yes.
That contingency statement? So
yeah, so it would be award the bid contingent upon emergency funding from the state.
So if we go forward, that's how we'd like to hear the motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions of Leo or Ryan? Oh, sorry, John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we heard information this evening that there's a main support beam that is cracked and sagging. Do we have a way to install some jack stands or temporary stabilization structures there?
We can look at it again. My recollection is almost the entirety of the beam is rotten. I don't know that there's a solid point to support it from.
It's wooden.
It is wooden.
It's a wooden beam,
Yes.
right? I've seen it.
So in looking at it, if the wooden beam has rotted and is there some way that we can use another beam in there to provide some support towards the center or something? I mean, if this beam was designed for support and is no longer functioning, it would seem to me that we own the building, so it would seem to me that there's maybe something that could be done there. I'm just asking that you take another look at that.
Yeah, we can definitely take another look at that.
Okay. Emily?
I was just going to ask again about the numbers that City Administrator Stevens mentioned about how the money might break out, but I think you included that in your email to us today, right?
I did, yes, ma'am.
The city portion of the funds would be, if we could get the grant, the emergency funds from the state, the city portion could be $57,208.48 or thereabouts.
That is correct, and that would assume that you use all of the contingency.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you. Amy?
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Director Evans and city staff for their engagement with the Historic Preservation Commission during the technical evaluation process, and also just thank them in advance for their continued engagement with that certified local government throughout kind of the process of work that needs to be done on new method. Really appreciate the extra time and effort there. I think that those commissioners bring a lot to the table, and I appreciate the collaboration that city staff has done.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Any other questions of council? Emily?
I just wondered if Mr. Camerlo has anything after listening to this, if he had anything to add or ask.
I'd just like to add that time is of the essence on this. If we can fast track this in any possible way, I think that is the smart move. Like you pointed out, the city owns that building now. There's huge liability. Unfortunately, the city had to take it on. There was just no other way around that. And, you know, we're all between a rock and a hard place on this one. So if in any way we could expedite that, I think shoring that building is going to be troublesome. I mean, that's why this bid's $800,000.
Yeah.
These guys are experts. I don't think we can come in and do a short-term fix on that. I think it'd be very difficult and very dangerous unless you're, you know, trained at shoring these types of buildings up, so.
Well, you're right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing that, would someone like to make a motion? Yeah, Gerald?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we award bid number 10-24 with the contingent upon the state emergency funds being granted.
Let's see, appropriate.
Second.
Second. Hearing that, any discussion on that? If not, I'd call for the roll.
Councilmember Maloney,
Aye.
Schmisher,
Aye.
Stein,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Worthington,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Aye.
Okay, so that kind of ends our agenda today. Our next regular meeting will be April 15th, and I will not have any April Fool jokes, okay? So we're now adjourned. Thank you.